to retake this video because I got a phone call from a very good friend of mine. Um, but anyway, breeding rabbits is one of the most important things you do if you're going to raise meat rabbits. You got to raise meat, you got to produce meat. That's part of animal husbandry. And if you're raising rabbits for meat, if you're raising rabbits for show, those two factors you have to take into account, that you're going to have to breed rabbits. You have to know a little bit about breeding rabbits. Okay? So, most of the work, the breeding part, the boy and the girl, they do what they do. I don't have to explain that to you if you're old enough to figure out old enough to figure out about raising rabbits, and you already know. But you have to do things to a certain extent, because the rabbits are kept in cages, and so you can't just put rabbits together in the same cage and hope that they have babies. That's not how it works. There's a lot to go over, but not really a lot. But anyway, so let's go into the first thing you do. Now it's a little dog run. When my dog had puppies, my wife went and bought this little cage thing that, it has a little door, and it's just a cage you set up out in your yard, and it's a metal cage. I set that out in the grassy part of the yard that's not in the bright sun, in the shade area. Usually do it in the morning so part of the house will shade over part of the yard, and I'll put him in that area where it's shaded. I will take the male out first, and I'll let him, run around in there a little bit, get used to his surroundings. And then I will introduce the female second. Now it's important because females are territorial. Males, not really. But females are territorial. You can't put a male rabbit in a female rabbit's cage. But you can if you want to breed them. You don't have the little cage outside and your male cage is big enough. You can put them with the male in the cage, and they can breed that way. Never put the male in the female cage. Always put the female in the male cage. Females are more aggressive than males. They can castrate the male. That's been done. They can kill the male or hurt him. They do not want another rabbit introduced in their cage. That's their territory, that's their space, and that's how the females are. And they're that way so they can protect their babies. So I guess that's why they do it. Now when you breed them, the male, they call it a drop-off. He'll get up there, and they'll be doing it doggy style, or rabbit style, and the boy, his pelvis will be moving like 90 miles an hour. He's going at it. He's working it. And then he'll stop. He'll freeze up, and then he'll fall over. If that happens, that's a successful breeding. Maybe not 100%, maybe 90% chance that breeding happened. Now, a lot of people say, make sure you get 3 drop-offs, like he does it to her. But sometimes a woman, she's had her pleasured, whatever, and she's done. I had one today. She was done. She wasn't going to breed him a second time, but I held her and let him mount her, and she lifted for him. So she's going to lift. I'll hold him in place, but if she don't want to lift, she's not going to lift. I'm not going to force her. I'm not going to put, pick her back end up so he can do her. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of wrong, I think. Maybe people do it. But I held her in place, and she stood there, and so you got 2 drop-offs on her. So I'm pretty sure she's pregnant. The other one got 3 drop-offs pretty quick. I mean, sometimes as soon as you drop that female in the cage, that male's on her, like, whew. Especially if he's an experienced male. He don't mess around. He's ready for business. There ain't no foreplay with rabbits. He gets on her, and he just starts pounding her. That's just the way rabbits are. They're not, some rabbits, and I've had rabbits that woo their women. Those are the best rabbits, best stud rabbits, because they'll get them pregnant every time. The ones that don't jump in and try to screw them, because sometimes that scares the female off, and she'll not be in the mood anymore. Another thing you do when you hold the rabbit is just pet her and get her calm before you put her in with a male. She's going to be startled because you grabbed her out of her cage. Once you get her in your hands, just pet her. Make sure you hold up her hind end with your one arm and cradle her in there and just pet her and, talk to her softly. I do my little baby voice. Oh, baby, you're doing all right. I talk to her like that and just get her to calm down. Sometimes you can put them on a stand and just groom them. Just, pet them and get the female comfortable. Just sometimes by humans just interacting with the female will get her. They can become in heat like that. I can't snap my fingers, but within minutes. Some days they won't be in heat all day, and then the next day they'll be in heat like crazy. But most of the time, rabbits can get in heat within a few minutes. Not like a dog that goes in heat, 3 or 4 times a year. They can go in heat right away. Once she's in heat, there are people that say, you look at their vajayjay, and if it's, kind of purplish, or that means she's ready to go. That doesn't always, I've tried that method, and it never really, I don't know. I've never seen that problem with my rabbits. Maybe it's because I got red and they're so fair skinned you can't see no discoloration in them. I don't really know, but I never even look. If either they're going to do it or they're not. That's the way I look at it. And if they don't do it, try again later. Okay, but stick around. I know that some people just take off and go do something else. You want to make sure they breed, because if they don't, then you breed them again. But if she's pregnant, if he did it and he actually was successful, if you put him back together the next day, she could attack him. Once they're pregnated, they don't want to have sex anymore. And they're not going to want to have sex until after their babies are gone. After at least 4 weeks. So that's why it's important to watch. And best thing is that if the boy can get 3 drop-offs, that's good. And then you can remove either rabbit first, and you can remove the male first because he was out there longer. But that's when it's time to put them back in their cages, put her back in her home, the cage that she's going to be from then on until she has her babies for the next 30 days. You don't want to be moving her around, picking her up. And I know people will pick them up and feel underneath them. But a lot of times you don't even have to pick them up to do that. Just reach your hand up underneath them. You feel the little bumpies. They'll have little bumps, like they have something underneath their skin. You'll know. It won't be normal. They won't feel normal underneath there. They'll feel a bunch of little bumps. And that for sure you'll know she's pregnant. Then you need to worry about, now this is very important, very, very important. Keep track of when you breed rabbits. Don't just breed rabbits. When did we breed that? What day was that? You need to know when you bred your rabbit. So you need to keep a record. Get a little book, get a notebook, get a binder. I got a plastic sign on my wall that I use Sharpies, and I bought at the rabbit show. It only costs a couple dollars, or $1, I think. And I'll get a Sharpie and I'll write down on there, I bred him today, so I put February 1st. Then I put the rabbit that was bred, the dame. It says dame on it, which is the mother, and I'll write her name, Celebrian. And then I'll write the sire, that's the father. And I'll put Glorfindel. And the date that they were bred. And then you put the due date. So it's 30 days from the day that you breed them. Now, they could be born a day early. They could be born up to 3 days late that I've experienced. That's a ballpark figure, the due date. It's not always, sometimes they're born early, sometimes they're born late, just like people, just like any other mammals. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. I've had a lot of them right on that 30-day mark, and they have their babies. So it's always close within that 30 days. So you need to get their nest ready. And you might have a nesting box, and within a week before that due date, put that nesting box in her cage so she's familiar with it. And then, within 4 to 5 days before, start putting some straw in there. Put some newspaper, if you have some old shirts, just rip them up and put them in there. And then she will pull hair from her chin. She'll grow more hair on her chin. She'll pull that out and she'll add that to the matting. And she'll put that over her babies. She'll keep the babies covered for 4 days to a week. Usually until they grow their fur and open their eyes. And then they're going to be all over the place. But for that first time, I kind of tend to leave them. A lot of people like to show off their little pinky babies. Rabbits aren't going to neglect that baby because you touched it. And there's the old myth, don't ever touch the babies. That's not really true. Not with rabbits anyway. But I still leave them alone when they're pinkies. I don't touch them. I'll look at them. I'll try to count them. And you get your count, and your count might be wrong. You'll say, I got 4, and you'll end up with 6. Oh, because there were a couple underneath hidden you didn't see. But, check to make sure there's no dead ones in there. Feel around. Feel one that's limp and cold. Get rid of that. Now, some of the rabbits I've had where they'll take the dead ones out. Now, I haven't had too much experience with rabbits dying. The first, Gladriel's first litter, she had a couple died and she dragged them out of the nesting box. I also have a hutch that has a little area, covered area, and then the open area, and she'll have her babies in the closed in area. That's fine. Make sure their babies aren't on the wire, okay? If you're going to be in a hutch or if you're going to be in anything, if you got a nesting box, make sure it has holes in the bottom of it so that any liquid will come running out, like when they urinate and stuff, will run out of there. So they're not like living in their own urine. I don't think you'd want that, and they definitely wouldn't want that. Little tiny holes that aren't too big because you don't want the little feet falling through them. And that's happened to me before too. So, a nesting box is important, and help them out with their nesting box. They don't need help delivering their babies. They don't need help making their babies. Boys are going to either know or not. You might get rabbits that never breed because they're either too stupid to figure it out, or they just don't want it, or they're gay or whatever. Who knows? But I don't think rabbits are gay. Maybe they have gay rabbits. Actually, I had 2 rabbits used to hump each other all the time, 2 boys, if they were put together. But male rabbits, they're just horn dogs. They got a few things on their mind. They want to eat, they want to drink, and they want to have sex with a female rabbit. That's what male rabbits think. That's their mind. That's their whole existence. Rabbits breed like crazy, and rabbits don't need a lot of help in their breeding. They know how to do it. They got instincts. And the first litter, the mom might not be as good. Check on her. If it's her first litter, make sure she's not having any outside the box on the wire. Rabbits that are on the wire, when they're pink and they don't have the fur yet, the wire cage will draw heat out of their body and it'll kill them. They won't be able to keep their body temp right, and they will die, and you'll lose rabbits that way. So it's real simple. You see one that's still alive, put it back in with the other rabbits. Then check on it periodically throughout that day to make sure it made it through. I've had rabbits that got out of the nesting box and somehow got out onto the ground. I picked them up off the ground and put them back in the nesting box, and they survived. I had no idea how long they were down there, but that has happened. So they're very, as long as they're not dead, and you find them in precarious situations, they're very resilient. Baby rabbits are very resilient. Since I've lived here in Alabama, I haven't lost any rabbits. Well, I lost some to the ants. That's why I have a particular breeding season that doesn't coincide with the ants, because if you have those little biting ants, breed your rabbits make sure they're born when those biting ants aren't around. Now, right now it's February, mid October through mid March is a good time. You don't want any babies born after mid March. March 1st, around that week, is when my cutoff for babies being born. So this week, which is a month before March, the week of March 1st, was when I decided to breed my rabbits. Well, actually, it's more March because February is a shorter month, so it's actually, I had to take that into account. So you add a couple days. So my due date is March 4th, even though today is the, because that's the ballpark there. It's probably going to be born a day or two before that, maybe a day after. But just be prepared. You have to be prepared to make sure they have their nesting box. Get that like a week ahead of time. Sometimes they'll be confused, don't know what that nesting box is for, and they'll just poop in there. Oh, that's a new place to go to the bathroom. Just dump it out, work with them. They'll figure it out when it's time to lay them babies, and they're gonna put some straw in there, and torn up shirts like I said, or newspaper, paper towel, things like that, just to add for the bedding. I don't use wood chips, especially like cedar chips can be really bad on the baby rabbits before they have their skin, because that can be irritating, and you don't want the babies to be irritated. And then once they're running around, it's all worth it. And then you get your grow out cage. Have everything ready. Before you breed rabbits, make sure, what am I going to do with all these babies once they're born? Because after 6 weeks, you don't want them with mom. Mom doesn't want them around anymore. She brings them into the world and nurses them until they can take care of themselves, and then she's done with them. So, and she's ready to breed again. So, make sure you have the cage space before you breed. Don't you just have 2 cages for your male and your female and breed. You got a month before you're going to have to put those, a month and a half till you have to put all those in well, actually more than that. But anyway, it's good to have extra cage space already ready. A place where you're going to put them, either a rabbit tractor or something. Rabbit tractor is a cage that goes on the ground that you can move around and let them eat fresh grass in your yard, and that's a good way. And I'll do a video on rabbit tractors and different cages too. So stay tuned for that. So you guys all have a good day and a better tomorrow.